so much for watching. We'll see you next time. Peace.
18 hours of procrastination in one day. I'm exhausted. Let's check out Instagram for some relaxation. I might not have enough time for this. Let fate decide. Let's see. Okay, today I'm gonna be working on this Draw This in Your Style challenge for a change now. It was made by 6 studios, amazing art YouTuber, check their stuff out, and they reached 10k, 11k on Instagram, which is almost 12k by now, and we're gonna be working on this portrait. I have a slightly different idea behind how to recreate this character according to my best abilities and like make it fit among my most recent works. So let me make a really quick sketch and I will explain my exact idea. Vegan bots. That hits home. My camera is dead. The battery decided to give up the fight, so I'm going to have my avatar here for some time. 5 minutes into the recording and it's gone. Rest in peace. Also, I just realized that I didn't like this post for some reason. There we go. Starting really strong after that previous scene, we have the first stage of my process. Everything I make here is a first really low fidelity version of the entire picture, except for the shadow and light layers, but I made a really basic version of the shading right with my first sketch. I'll explain it in more detail in a second, but in a few words I decided to not put all the butterflies right on the face and instead make the one main butterfly cast a giant shadow across the whole face. I really like working with these strong light rays when I use layers to build up my shadows and lights. It can really be crippling and confusing many times, but you have a really great opportunity to create more complex lighting scenarios when your software can calculate all the colors instead of mixing them out by hand. On the pro side, I always try to take advantage of the fact that I'm working digitally and take things a step further. Make things that would be really complicated if I worked traditionally. And on the flip side, obviously it takes away a sense of cohesion quite often if you're not careful enough, and getting used to organizing your layers is a must. Okay, this might be one of the messiest sketches I've ever done. Let's just get really quickly into it. It's enough for me to explain what is happening here. So what we had on the original picture, let me grab it. What we had on the original picture are these white butterflies that are kind of just floating there and emitting some light and emitting these little white particles. Other than spicing up the design a little bit, that might even change later, I want these butterflies to cast shadows because there will be a strong light source towards the top left side of the canvas. You're going to see all these light rays that are created by the butterflies, and also the head is creating an overall big shadow here. And these butterflies are like transparent and they work as a prism. Is it how you pronounce it? Prism? That thing that, you know, that thing that we had in middle school where there's this little why can't I speak English today? There's this little item, and as the light passes through them, it is going to create this rainbow effect. You will see an overall shadow on the face, but it's also going to have some of those rainbow colors. Someone is doing fireworks outside. I just got distracted, and I already titled this picture, "The winter butterflies are blossoming in the spring." Nowadays I'm going a little overboard with these titles. It is going to make sense when you see this series of environmentalist paintings that I've been making in the last few weeks. I just can't calm down and make anything else but those. I'm just really in the mood for this whole messaging, and let's hope once I combine all these different layers, once I combine all these different layers together, they are going to give me the effect that I'm looking for, or maybe they are going to give it most of it, and I will only need to do some really small amounts of overpaint in the end. Did I mention that these butterflies are going to be made out of ice? I can't even tell what I told already. I'm so disoriented today. Okay, so I'm going to continue. I'm going to make a proper sketch first, like turn off every one of these complicated things. Let's just focus on the face itself, and we will see where to progress from there. For the second sketch, I grabbed the original and started just erasing all the ugly parts and my original shading that I made as a sample. I know that most people do a completely new sketch on top of the original, but right now I'm finding this method to be much better for me. Yes, by the way, this is how I've been sketching lately. I just make everything with this absolutely disgusting little sketch brush, and then I clean them up. Like, I've been trying to make a second sketch on top of it, like how everyone else does it, that I bring down the opacity and I make a new layer and I start sketching here, and I'm just continuously feeling that I'm making the sketch worse. Like right now, the original sketch had a bunch of, like, you know, energy and expression, and then what I'm doing is pretty much keeping it as much as I can. Obviously I change stuff, like I change the way these eyes look, but in the same time I'm not like redoing it from scratch, just worse. I'm actively trying to make it work this way, and it might be a little bit inefficient sometimes, and you know, these results are not going to be as clean and as nice looking as they would otherwise, but I'm going to cover up almost all of it either way. And what I want to really achieve is just keep that original quality of the sketch that I liked. Like, what is it that I'm going to lose? I'm going to spend like 1.5 times as much on the sketch to make it proper, but at the same time I'm making it like 3 times as good as I could otherwise. You know, this is something that would get better with practice. I totally understand that, and don't get me wrong, I do practice it, especially since I started traditional drawing not so long ago, and like this method is not so usable on paper. What I usually do is I sketch with a really light HB pencil, and I pretty much do something like this, but then I go with a B pencil and I add more and more of these dark areas. So pretty much instead of erasing away the stuff that I don't need from this version, I grab this and I apply the second layer on top of it, and that's gonna be my final sketch. I hope what I said made some sense, and maybe like next week I'm just going to say, this is garbage, let's go back to the proper carefully make the sketch method. But right now I'm having a lot of fun with this, and what I feel now is that I'm having the best results with this, so I'm just going to continue until I feel comfortable doing it this way. Also, this face looks nothing like the original, like the only recognizable feature is pretty much just going to be the hair. I have this strange habit. I always make the exact same eyebrows, like I make this shape pretty much every time, and then I work it around many times until I pretty much end up with the same thing, just on a smaller scale like here. But this character has these not so common eyebrows, and also she has a piercing. I didn't even notice it really. And let's not go really hard on the hair, because I'm going to paint that over altogether, so I won't need a really great sketch on it. I'm just drawing these lines because I'm procrastinating on moving forward. Also, there's this what is it called, turtleneck, that is going to have these nice little lines like this. Let's just put a few of these here as a indication. That is the worst turtleneck anyone has ever drawn. Okay, this is just placeholder. The entire painting, my entire legacy is just a placeholder. Continuing with the face, it's inevitable to lose some of the charm of the first version, but my goal here is to reduce the whole sketch to only show the darkest areas of the face. Then I'll colorize the lines. A dark red for the skin, deep colors for the hair and for the lips, and some blacks for the iris, the eyelids, and the eyebrows. Then the base colors can smoothly go underneath the whole thing. I have another painting process recorded where I'm planning to show the exact steps of the process that I'm doing here. So I just mentioned that I wanted to make ice butterflies, because of course I'm taking creative liberties way more than I should. What about, instead of these swirly parts, I want to add little ice spikes to these wings. Like, there's a wing that comes like a little bit more sharp than the regular butterfly's wings, and it has these little spikes, and they are like uneven, like they don't resemble teeth so much or anything. These are literally just a bunch of little ice spikes. Maybe make this part a little bit more rounded, something like this. This one has a drop of water attached to it. Now it looks like a butterfly that is bloody, like a bloody ghost butterfly that is just just floating in the air, and you can only see this, not even this red silhouette, what is it called, this red outline that is just flying. I'm okay, by the way. This is my brain on default mode. Like I always sound like some person with some end stage brain rot. That is my default. That is who I am. That is who I've always been. Also, what should be these particles? They are just little floating particles without any reason. That sounds like okay. Maybe they are like some of these really fine snow flying in the air because they were attached to the wings of the butterfly. Just the fact that these are all flying butterflies, but their wings are covered in ice spikes. That could be like an indication that these butterflies are frozen in time, because these ice spikes are all following the gravity. I'm just inventing new stuff every second instead of making it properly. I like where this is going. Okay, this is the greatest part of the whole process, and arguably the most fun part, though I know that not many people agree with me on this. Where after polishing the sketch of the butterflies, I add all the base colors, then I build up the shading with a whole rack of layers. First I make the entire face without the shadow of the butterfly and without the giant light from the upper left corner. This is really the part when you see the whole thing slowly coming together. By the way, a little side note, I kept thinking who this version of the character resembles so much, then I realized that she kinda looks like Rosario Dawson. I don't know, am I the only one who sees it? This thing doesn't stay because later I cut apart the face and rearrange it, so she won't look like someone who was run over by some heavy machinery. Just make the face less longer. Now that we are in the long time-lapse part of the video, I'll do this thing others often do to farm some comments. What is your preferred method of working with scenes that have a more complex lighting, or just in general? I had a rather long time when I didn't use layer modes at all, just mixed everything on the canvas, even with more complex lighting scenarios. Before that, I used the grayscale to color method. Maybe the person who does it the best is Mark Brunet with the crazy gradient maps. I was never able to wrap my head around that technique, though it can really be powerful and really accurate if you figure out how to use it properly. Personally, I couldn't. I've been rediscovering the true power of working without layer modes lately with more complex brushes. I have an entire series of pictures dedicated to practicing that technique, but when it comes to really complex light situations and a generally higher level of realism, this method is just unbeatable in my eyes. After playing some Play-Doh with the face, the features are finally at their proper place. They still needed some amount of overpainting, but they are roughly done. I didn't use one main reference for the face other than the original drawing made by Six and a 3D model from the studio, so the features got a little bit out of place. There's actually a really big thing I'm struggling a lot with now that I got into drawing with graphite. I often underestimate how careful I have to be to get all the features at their right place, but it's a really great test of patience, to say the least. I almost recorded my voice without plugging in my microphone, but would you look at this? Open Broadcaster is lying to me, and it's not lying, it's saying that, oh, I can hear you, but doesn't tell me that it's hearing me through my camera microphone. So let's fix that really quick before I record some broken audio. Do I sound better now? I haven't lost my mind yet. Actually, I shouldn't be holding my microphone with my hand because my volume is not going to be consistent. Come on. Maybe I shouldn't use 3 cans of deodorant taped together as my microphone stand and it wouldn't constantly try to fall apart. I just wanted to leave a really quick note. The picture is going so far relatively well. I just restructured the entire face because this is like I'm not sure what I'm looking at, but I'm fairly certain that Picasso would have been proud of me. So this resembles an actual face more now. I just don't like the way this face is shaped, like this. Maybe if the chin was a little bit more pointy like the original, then this whole curve here would work much better. I'm going back and forth with a few facial features in order to make them work properly. And then also we are going to have the butterflies. They actually look pretty nice. This one looks like a sock, like do you see it? They are going to be fine. Also this effect is like a little bit overdone, like I'm not sure how clear this whole shadow is, but I really want to keep it colorful. Also I'm breaking my own rule of not trying to paint while I'm speaking because it's just going to be a whole disaster. Also one issue that I have is that this part of the shadow is darker because of the fact simply that I'm using a multiply layer. I can show you actually I'm using multiply layers to create this whole shadow, but instead what I should do is keep one for the colors only and one for the actual shadow, so this part of the face would be about as dark as this place where the cooler colors are on this little rainbow effect. I'm pretty sure that sentence wasn't comprehensible, but I'm not going to record it again. What I was thinking is maybe I should just go with a really simple route, add one more layer that is going to be simply a boost to this shadow, and it's going to be like this color maybe. Let's try it out really quick. And what I want is just to really briefly airbrush in some of this. So if I check the values, I can make sure that the two sides of this shadow are roughly the same values. Let's stick with this for now. So now you can see that the values seem to be better and it doesn't affect the colors that much. Maybe even brings out this green here. The head of the butterfly should also have a little shadow that is completely missing. If you check this out, I'm completely missing the head. So let's just really quickly airbrush in a spot here. I'm really picking these little disgusting solutions that, okay, we could do this properly, or I could just add one more layer that is kind of just slapping everything together. It's obvious what I'm going to choose while I'm here. Let's not forget about adding some what is it called, light fall off. You know what I'm talking about, this thingy here. Because the light fall off effect is just the cheapest way of making something really strangely nice looking. Trying to forge together a sentence while I'm painting over these parts. Look at that. Wow. Maybe I'm I'm going a little bit too overkill with this whole effect. Like, yeah, even if it doesn't look exactly the way I imagined. So I imagined that it's going to look much cleaner, and maybe someone else would have made it in a much cleaner way. Maybe if I built it up the way I actually should have, with actually just applying a shadow first that doesn't have colors and then adding the colors back. That might have been a much better approach with much better results. Let's not forget about the lips having the light fall off. It's actually nicely positioned. It wasn't intentional that this part kind of falls at the lower lip. Also, I'm pretty sure that the way I made this whole effect doesn't really make sense, that there are separate wings yet they are all making one giant prism effect. Like, I'm pretty sure that someone who's made anything with this effect before, maybe like an actual sculpture with this effect or something, they would really be mad at me for doing it this way. Also, look at that. I accidentally slashed the teardrop with the shadow. Also, I should modify the color of this shadow because that looks like some blood trail. But overall, obviously I am going to save just one version like this because this has a much different feel, but this is going to be the final and like the definitive version of this picture. Okay, now that I successfully talked for I don't even know how long in order to procrastinate, obviously not in order to procrastinate, I just kept on talking about unimportant stuff. Let's get back into it and continue. In the very end, I added the rest of the rendering, including the dreaded eyelashes. They are so hard for me to get properly. They always just get distorted when I make them. That's why I really often completely skip it and I just leave the eyes without lashes. Other than that, I made the hair with a combination of hand painting and a smudge tool. I'm still practicing how to use this method properly. Also, do you remember that sketching brush that I showed you earlier? That is surprisingly a good one for both the eyelashes and finer hair details as well. The icy butterflies are some extra eye candy. They are not insanely detailed or anything, but I really like the eyes and the little snow effect. They just give the picture this magical fantasy element that I always try to add in some form. Okay, I'm going to call this picture done. You know, you can always find things that are 2 minutes to fix, but you know, there are 100 things that are 2 minutes to fix. So at one point you just have to kind of let go of these things. So at one point you just have to let your pictures go. And I feel that this is the point for me. I don't know how I feel about the hair. It became like a little bit messy. but like in a good way. I use the smudge tool way more than I generally do. It might give the hair a little bit of a strange feel, but I'm going to call it done for now. I actually really like this light fall off effect. I don't know what it is about this effect that I like so much. It is just perfect every time, no matter how you do it. Can I make the butterflies? Did I paint anything serious on this layer? No. Should I make the butterflies just a tiny bit transparent? I'm going to try. Somehow I managed to fully commentate 5 minutes of me just adding transparency to the butterflies. Looking back, they did seem like dull pieces of plastic when they were completely solid. So here's your reminder how such a little change of effectively removing something can elevate one of your images. So this is it. This was my Draw This in Your Style challenge for 6 studios. Check out their videos as well, link is in the description. This challenge actually closed by now, so I'm not even going to be on the top list, but there will be, I don't know, today or tomorrow the announcement of the winners, so go and check them out as well. Have a nice day, do some art, even if it is made for a Draw This in Your Style challenge that already ended, but you were interested in it all along, but you've been just procrastinating on it for so long that you didn't even start working on it until the very last day before the deadline. Especially if that is the case, those are generally the best works we ever do. But most importantly, have fun while doing that. Farewell.